Morning, Tim. How are you?
I made it.
You made it.
It's half the battle.
Was there a question
You question
every day? I parked as far back in the lot as I could today, so I got a little more exercise. I'm thinking I need to walk more.
When it's gonna be nice, like today. Today's the day to do it.
being judged by the time we finish. Let's get started then and call the meeting to order for the Yates County Capital Resource Corporation.
Make sure we're live first.
All right.
Good old fun.
Steve, are we talking about the proposal today that you sent?
We're good?
All right, we are good. We are called to order. We'll start with an introduction of guests. Do we have Russ or Steve
Not
joining?
at the beginning of the meeting, no.
Steve will be on it around 9. Or,
Okay.
excuse me, Russ.
Okay, very good. Hello, welcome.
Morning.
You guys want to introduce yourselves for the public session?
Sure.
Yeah.
My name's Erica Handley. I am with Drescher and Lucky. I'm audit director. We're here to present audit results, and this is Megan Winnick from Drescher and Lucky as well.
Thanks for being here today. Look forward to hearing the reports and
Great.
everything. We have Mr. Jim Moon, our esteemed colleague with Howard Hanna Lake Group. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We do not need an executive session, so we're going to move on to the review and approval of our minutes from our January meeting. Does
Move to
anybody-
approve.
Okay, motion and a second.
Second, Rogers.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, carried. Don't have any changes in this agenda, so move on to Doreen for the finance report.
I have 2 checks today, 906 and 907, totaling $2,207. That's all I have to report today. The museum did pay their loan off last month, so they're all paid in full.
Okay, good. Thanks for sending the check detail out ahead of time. That's good. Does anybody have any questions for Doreen? Okay, we'd ask for a motion to accept the finance report and approve paying those specific checks.
So moved. Comment.
Thank you, Tim. And a second?
Second.
Amy and Janice.
All right. That's aye for Amy and Janice.
Two for two.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carried. So we'll move on to our action item, which is our
Okay.
22 audit presentation.
Noah.
No one.
And Noah and Kim joining us. on board.
Can you hear us all right, Kim?
I can, you guys are good.
Good, thanks.
Oh, there's Noah.
Who are your esteemed colleagues that just jumped off the couch?
The troublemaker of the bunch. Mr. And I am right now, so we'll focus on him, return the camera off.
He looks pretty sad.
Yeah, then why don't we turn it over to
Okay,
you guys, yeah?
great.
If you want to give
Sure.
your presentation.
Am I good here? Or do you want me to stand somewhere else? Is it better to hear from difference?
Oh, you're good.
Okay, great.
Wherever you're comfortable.
Great.
with, yeah.
Hold on.
As I mentioned, my name is Erica Handley. I'm a director with Drescher and Malecki, and we are here today to present the audit results from the December 31st, 2022 audit. So in front of you, for each of the entities, there's a presentation that we'll go through along with the drafts of the financial statements. I'll reiterate a couple times, but these are in draft form at this point. They still are required to go through an internal quality control review at our firm. So if there are any changes after this point that would be material or a significant impact, we would bring them to your attention as soon as we're aware of those. I don't anticipate any of them, but that's just for your information that those are still out there. Starting with the presentation that's in front of you, the Capital Resource Corporation. Some of the products of our audit in relation to the Capital Resource Corporation on the first slide. First and foremost, products of our audit are to issue basic financial statements. Those are, as I mentioned, in front of you in draft form. The financial statements are compiled using the information that's provided to us by Doreen. We then input those into our system and provide an opinion on the financial statements. Everything that's in the financial statement document is the ownership of management, except for that opinion. That opinion on pages 1 through 3 is the ownership of Drescher and Malecki and is a product of our audit. Occasionally, we will also issue a management letter. There is no management letter for the Capital Resource Corporation for the 2022 year end. A management letter is an opportunity for us to provide any best practices or housekeeping items. There were none in relation to Capital Resource Corporation, so that's not relevant this year. And then the third item that we issue is an auditor communication letter. which I will talk about a little bit more on the next slide. Moving on to the auditor communication letter details. This is a formal communication that you will receive each year that you're audited. It's a required communication that we have with this group each year. Within that letter outlines what our responsibility is under generally accepted auditing standards, which is for us to plan and perform an audit so that the users of the financial statements can reasonably rely on them, that they are free of material misstatement. We also communicate with this group significant accounting policies of the Resource Corporation. Those are included in footnote 1 to the financial statements. Really, for your information, there have been no significant changes year to year. If there were, we would be required to communicate those with you. But for your information, you should be able to take these financial statements, look at them right against next year's, and be able to compare them 1 to 1. If there were any significant estimates in the financial statements, we would communicate those with you. Within the Capital Resource Corporation, there are no significant estimates, nothing to report there. Our independence is probably the most important thing that you look for in a third-party external auditor. Megan and myself, the other individuals that worked on the audit, are independent of the Capital Resource Corporation. Everyone in our firm is, and we all sign off on that, so rest assured that there's no issues there. And then if there are any other matters in relation to our audit, we would communicate them here. No disagreements with management, full cooperation from everyone we spoke to, no uncorrected errors, no journal entries. So not a whole lot to report there. As I mentioned, we take ownership over the opinion on the financial statements. These financial statements will be issued in time for the March 31st Paris filing, so while they still are in a review process, rest assured that we will ensure that they are issued in time for, I know, their requirement coming up. Our opinion at this point in the draft statements that we intend to move forward with is an unmodified opinion. That's a clean opinion and the best that you can do from an audit perspective. And then just briefly taking a look at some financial statement highlights. Within your financial statements, there are 3 main pieces. On page 8, it's your statement of net position. That is a snapshot in time of your assets, liabilities, and equity position as of December 31st, 2022. At year end, your ending net position was $68,602, and that's comprised entirely of assets. There were no liabilities outstanding at year end. On page 9, that represents your statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. So your income statement for the December 31st, 2022 year end. Really nominal activity in the Capital Resource Corporation, especially comparing last year to this year. Not much difference there. Your net position did have a slight decrease of $2,209 just from those normal operations. And then lastly, on page 10 is your statement of cash flows. Overall, your cash position did increase by about $19,000, and that was primarily due to the collection of notes receivable during the year. So as expected, that cash position did increase. And then finally, just observations that we have to share. As I mentioned, no management letter. There were no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies. So really, no news is good news in this case. Nothing major to report from our end. Any questions on this one here? I imagine it's all information that you know already, so just good to have a third party reiterate what you know each month.
Good job, Doreen.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody, any questions? Just one more time before we close the book on this meeting?
Nope.
All right, so that,
We have to approve those, so you can approve them, last year we approved them conditionally, but they have to be approved before we can submit to Paris.
right, so these are still in draft form, subject to the internal control review that they talked about, so we guess we'd ask for a motion to approve them and state that they're in, and if there are any changes, we'll be notified. And
So moved.
Yeah.
Cutler.
thank you, Deb.
Second.
All right, second, Amy. Any questions?
That's contingent.
It's contingent
final
on
review.
passing through cleanly through the internal review of the auditing firm. If there was something material that came up, we would then need to revisit that. But, yeah, okay. Motion and seconded, clarified. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that one's carried. So that concludes the agenda for the CRC. I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Tim, and second.
Rogers.
Rogers, and we are adjourned. So we will move then to the Finger Lakes Horizon Economic Development Center and call that meeting to order here at 8:40. We have the same guests. We haven't had our friends from Harris Beach join us yet. So we'll start with the review and approval of our minutes from our prior meeting, which was in February 15th. Those were circulated in the packets. Do we have any questions on those or changes?
So moved to approve.
Okay. Thank you, Tim, with the motion and a second.
Amy,
From
second.
Amy, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, carried. So, changes in the agenda. I do think we have one, right? We're gonna remove item 2 under action items, table that until next month. With that, we'll move on to our finance report. Doreen?
2 checks today totaling $4,485, and check number 356 and 357.
Okay. Can I ask for a motion to approve?
Move to approve the finance report, color.
Okay.
Second.
Second, Amy. Any further discussion there? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carried. So on to our action items. We have our audit presentation for the Horizon EDC.
Okay. Move on to the presentation. It will look very similar to what you just saw for the Economic Development Corporation, to go over some of the financial results and observations from the December 31st, 2022 year-end audit. The products of our audit: we issue an opinion on your basic financial statements. Those are included within the drafts that are in front of you on pages 1 through 3 of the financial statements. We receive trial balances and financial information directly from the corporation, and then utilize those to compile the financial statements that are in front of you. We take ownership over pages 1 through 3 in your financial statements. The rest of the information within comes directly from management, and we perform audit procedures over it. Again, for your information, we'll occasionally issue a management letter. In the case of the Economic Development Corporation, there is no management letter issued, so no bookkeeping items, no housekeeping, no recommendations in relation to our audit this year. We also issue a formal auditor communication letter, which is why we are here today, to present required communications to you. Moving on to the next slide, some of those specific audit communication letters. Items are what our responsibility is under generally accepted auditing standards. We are required under those standards to plan and perform our audit to ensure that there is reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatements. Significant accounting policies are located within footnote 1 to your financial statements. There were no changes to your accounting policies, so year over year, those are comparable financial statements this year to last year. There were no estimates utilized within your financial statements this year, so nothing to report there. As far as independence goes, Megan and myself and everyone who worked on this year's audit, everyone in our firm does sign off as being independent of the corporation. Other matters: there were 2 proposed journal entries that we have discussed with Doreen. Those get included within this letter. They're pretty housekeeping in nature. Something that we talked about at length with Doreen was ensuring that the loan software that the loan payments are recorded in and the general ledger have a reconciliation between them occasionally. So one of the journal entries that was proposed was us going back and forth with Doreen to reconcile those 2 softwares. So just to bring to your attention, we're recommending to have that periodically happening, just to ensure that there's another set of eyes reconciling between those 2.
Do you have a recommendation for the frequency of that? Is it monthly or quarterly?
I would say quarterly is probably enough. I think the item there that we would recommend is that it's also being looked at by an individual other than Doreen, just to ensure that there are those segregation of duties there. So the frequency, I think, isn't quite as important as making sure there's just an additional set of eyes on that reconciliation. There's a lot of human error potential typing in those balances. There's so many checks coming in, and along with the IDA, we'll talk about that as well. But just there's so many chances for human error, so making sure that those checks and balances are there between that reconciliation. We did a lot of work. Doreen did a lot of work to get to that point this year, but just going forward to ensure that continues happening.
Okay.
Moving on to the next slide, our auditor's opinion. These financial statements are in draft form. We anticipate moving forward, however, with an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. That's a clean opinion and the best that you can do, so nothing to note there. And then looking at financial statement highlights, your 3 separate financial statements. On page 8 of these is the statement of net position. That is your balances right at December 31st year end, your assets, your liabilities, and your equity position or net position. At year end, the net position of the corporation was $2,481,000, and this primarily represents outstanding notes receivable balances. So a lot of testing happens over those notes receivable balance from our perspective. On page 9 is your statement of revenues, expenses, changes in net position, or what's referred to as an income statement. Net position did increase this year by about $130,000. Operating revenues coming to about $298,000, and operating expenses at about $168,000, pretty comparable to last year. And then on page 10 of your financial statements, your statement of cash flows, looking at where that cash is coming in and going out throughout the year. Your cash did increase by about $133,000. There were new loans issued this year totaling about $185,000 and collections on loans of about $190,000. A lot of that cash increase comes from the Empire Pipeline money coming in and in excess of what goes out. So that's a lot of the reason that your cash position increases there each year. And then just to conclude on this one, again, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, so nothing to report there as far as that happens. So we will move forward, and if there are any significant changes, again, to these financial statements, we'll bring those to your attention, but we don't anticipate there being any, and we do anticipate issuing by March 31st.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions before we ask to move this forward? Again, it would be a conditional approval upon there being no significant changes.
Move to approve Cutler pending final review by the auditors.
Thank you, Tim.
Second, Amy.
Thank you, Amy. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's carried. All right. 2 out of 3 so far.
So
Great
far,
job,
so
Doreen.
good.
Yeah.
I just would like to say thank you to the girls, because they were very patient with me with going through all the loans, and it just stemmed back from when we changed the accounting system and a couple different loan softwares, and just now it'll all be corrected, and we'll move forward. It should be a lot easier next year for them and me, so.
Well, thank you to you, Doreen.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sure
Thank
there's
you.
a lot that goes into it from your end.
That's excellent.
Yeah. Okay, that concludes the agenda for this entity, so I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Tim.
Second, Amy.
Second, Amy. All those, I don't need to vote on that, so that is adjourned. All right. And we'll then call our final meeting to order, the Finger Lakes Economic Development Center here at 8:49. And we have the same guests in attendance. And we will need an executive session for this entity, but I'd like to move that down a little bit, and we'll go through the minutes and then move the audit presentation up, if that's all right with you guys. And then we'll go through that, and then we'll get back into the management reports and other action items. So it would be bringing up the audit presentation. Actually, why don't we bring the audit presentation up to now, and then we'll
You don't
go
want to
on.
approve the minutes first?
I have a correction for
Just
the
get them out of the way.
Sure. Why don't we do the minutes first? And Doreen has a correction on the minutes, and we'll start with that.
I do. The total checks paid is correct, but we need to add check numbers E115 and E117 that was missed in the minutes. So,
Okay.
only correction I have.
Okay. Any other, well, I'd ask for a motion to approve.
Move to approve as amended. Cutler?
Second.
Second, Amy, any further discussion or any other changes?
No.
Okay. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's carried. And then I'd like to invite our friends back up.
Happy
do
to.
your Third and final audit
All right,
presentation.
Great, thank you. So lastly, in front of you is a presentation in the draft financial statements related to the Industrial Development Agency. Products of our audit, the basic financial statements that are in front of you. We issue an opinion on those financial statements. The rest of the information within there is derived from what we receive from Doreen and from other individuals that we work with at the agency. So that includes footnote information, financial information, and then we perform tests over what's provided to us, compile the financial statements, and issue the opinion on pages 1 through 3. There is a management letter that we will issue for the IDA. This is in relation to that loans receivable. We're going to put it in a formal communication this year just to bring it to your attention in a formal manner, having that loan software reconciliation reconciling to the general ledger. So that will be in a formal communication so that we have the opportunity to follow up on it next year, especially considering the size of those loans and notes outstanding at the IDA. We felt it was important to formalize it. This is not something that's a significant deficiency or a material weakness. We utilize the management letter just really as a formal communication to bring something to your attention. We also will issue a formal auditor communication letter. Within that auditor communication letter is a series of required communications, which is why we are here today. Our responsibility under generally accepted auditing standards is to plan and perform an audit to ensure that your financial statements are reasonably stated and free from material misstatement. Significant accounting policies are included in footnote 1 to your financial statement. There is one Governmental Accounting Standards Board statement that all governments are required to implement this year that did impact the financial statements of the IDA. That is referred to as GASB Statement Number 87, and it refers to leases. So all of the space that you have been leasing out to other entities, this year we are required to do a pretty thorough review of those leases by GASB and bring those onto your books as an asset. So there's a fair value measurement of the future payments that you're going to receive. There's a threshold that's established. So that is something that's slightly different from last year on your financial statements. However, it does not materially impact your financial statements. Essentially, it brings those leases on as an asset, but there's, I'm going to say a lot of accounting lingo here, but it brings on what's referred to as a deferred inflow, which is a contra asset. So they net pretty much to zero. So nothing changes as far as how you're accounting for those on a monthly basis. The money that comes in still is recorded the same way. It's just one of those things that GASB wants everybody to do to show that there are those leases outstanding there. If you were actually leasing anything instead of being the lessor, it would flip and work the opposite way, that those operating leases actually become a liability. Nothing changes to Doreen's day-to-day of what she's doing, but it just was an extra step that's required and may make your financial statements look different if you're comparing last year to this year. Significant accounting estimates for the IDA. There are 2 significant accounting estimates that are included. The first is your liability for compensated absences, so that's vacation or sick leave. That is an estimated amount, which is common to all financial statements that we audit. Our responsibility as auditors is to evaluate the inputs used to develop that estimate, and we did reasonably determine that the inputs are appropriate and that estimate is appropriate in the financial statement. The second estimate that is included in these financial statements is the New York State retirement liability. In this case, it was an asset at year end, so that is if that's the amount that is still owed or that has been overfunded. that information becomes directly from New York State, so we evaluate the information that comes from New York State. It's nothing that happens internally here, but it is just an estimate, so we do the same procedures to evaluate the estimate and have determined that it's reasonable. For the Industrial Development Agency, everybody at our firm has signed off as being independent, no issues there, independent in fact and appearance. And then other matters, no disagreements with management, we had the full cooperation. There were some adjusting journal entries that were routine in nature, some of those year-end accruals, some of those, that new GASB, things like that we worked with Doreen to develop those journal entries. Moving on, our audit opinion is in draft form at this point. However, we do anticipate moving forward with an unmodified or a clean opinion on these financial statements. And then moving on to financial statement highlights. The financial statements for this entity are found on pages 9 through 11 of the drafts that are in front of you. On page 9 is your statement of net position. This is your balance sheet at December 31st, 2022. Ending net position of $8.9 million. For your information of note on these financial statements, all long-term items are included. So any of your capital asset balances that you have, those long-term items that you might not look at on a day-to-day or month-to-month basis are included on here. Occasionally when that net pension liability from the state swings the other way and it's underfunded, you might see a large liability for that on there. So this takes into consideration a lot of those long-term things in addition to what the day-to-day you're looking at is. On page 10 is your income statement or your statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. Overall, net position did increase this year by about $253,000. And then on page 11, your statement of cash flows. Overall cash flows decreased for the December 31st, 2022 year end by about $118,000. That first section on there presents the cash flows from operations. That was an increase this year, so you did have positive cash flow from your operations of about $519,000. Moving on to those two sections below, your capital related cash flows, that caused a decrease. That's due to routine purchases of capital assets. Cash is going out the door for those. And then in the investing section, that third section down, moving cash into CDs is also shown as a decrease in your cash. So those two sections offset that positive cash flow from operations. To wrap this up here, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies. We do anticipate, as I mentioned, issuing by the March 31st year end. There is one more piece of audit documentation that we will need from each of these entities, which is a signed representation letter. So that will be circulating and is required to be signed by year end, just so you know we will be reaching out to you with that. Are there any questions on this one? I know it's a little bit more complicated, a little bit more accounting jargon.
That needs to be signed by who?
Do you know who signs those? We can check and we'll let you know when we get back.
I think it's Steve.
I believe
might be
it
the
is.
chairman, maybe.
Okay,
I think
we'll
so.
get those sooner, rather than later, just to ensure that there's enough time. And then Doreen works from there to upload the information to Paris, and we include certain Paris filing information once that's completed within the final documents as well. Any questions? Our contact information, Megan and I, is on the back of each of these presentations, so if over the next 10 days or so anybody has any questions, please let us know. And really at any point throughout the year, if you have questions, we're happy to help in any way that you need.
Somebody
Great.
wakes up in the middle of the night.
It would be comforting to know that it's not just us that wakes up in the middle of the night. All right, great, thank you. And
Okay,
thanks,
so-
Doreen, for all of your help.
Well, thank you for your patience with going through all that.
Yeah, it's a quick turnaround. March is a quick turnaround to get it all done, but it's good.
Yeah, so this is gonna get another final review by,
Yes. Yes, they're with, they go to another partner in the firm, somebody who's not involved, just so that we have another set of eyes on it. Sometimes we get deep into it and are looking at it for so long, we give it to somebody who hasn't seen it and let them look at it big picture wise. So we're at that
Still
point.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, move to approve pending final review by,
This is the go-to motion maker today. I appreciate that.
well, I gotta keep the meeting moving.
Second.
Gonna help you out.
Second by
Second,
Amy.
Amy.
You guys got a nice program
Tim doesn't
going.
wanna take
We
over the
do.
chairman thing, right?
Just
That's
like
his
to thank you,
motivation.
Megan and Erica, for all your work on
Yeah,
this. This
thank
is
you.
great, and thanks for the positive comments on management and their efforts to wrap this up and
Yeah.
to do it in such a timely fashion. We certainly appreciate it, so.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks to all involved there.
Yeah.
I'd ask for the vote.
You're welcome to leave if you'd like. You don't need to stay for the rest of it.
So, all those in
Thank
favor?
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carried.
I missed who seconded that.
Amy,
Amy.
you probably just keep writing that down.
It's the tag team
As long as
today.
she's still here.
Amy's got a conflict, so she wants to keep things
So-
moving.
That's right.
Jim, we are gonna have an executive session for this meeting, so we're gonna ask you to step out, please.
Discuss the particular financials of a company and potential illegal or disposition of property, sale of property.
Michael, let us know when we're in executive session.
Do we
Actually,
need a-
do we have a motion
yeah.
to move into executive session?
So moved, Rogers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This end of the table, in a second.
Second, Janice.
Yeah.
There was some attitude behind it too. That was
I'm gonna beat me to this one.
All in favor?
I lost my whole minute.
Right, no more copy and paste for drink.
I could come back and make it.
Vote on these two options. We can then go. I don't know if there's anything to actually approve on the development agreement thing just yet. So we could go back into executive at the end of the meeting.
Is there another loan request? Is it just this?
No, that
this
was
is,
the.
This is the only
Yep,
one.
so we're tabling that.
Do you wanna? You have like 1 minute or 2 minutes, or how does?
Yeah, I mean, I got 5 minutes.
Can you cover? If I excuse myself, can you cover the farm lease part?
Sure.
And then we could come out and you vote on
Yep.
both
Yep,
of those quick.
sure.
But we gotta go to public first.
No,
No,
we
this
don't.
is still an executive
Yeah,
session.
we're still in executive.
We're messing.
Should do get it open. I don't think you need to discuss the loan too much, just offer loan as discussed.
So we're gonna skip down Got it.
Good.
Okay, I'd ask for a motion to re-enter open session, please.
So moved, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Second.
And
Cutler.
Tim? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are back in open session, and our next item are changes in the agenda.
Add FLEDC farm lease under action items.
Okay, and I believe we're scratching one of the pending loan approvals off.
Yep, correct.
So those are the two agenda changes. Due to some timing here, we're gonna move on to action items, skip ahead to action item number 4, which is a pending loan request.
Yep, so Peter and Hannah Martin's Farm LLC is requesting a $100,000 loan, which would be at 2%, reduced to 1 with automatic payments. Collateral on the loan would be UCC filing, and personal guarantees from Peter and Hannah Martins.
Move to approve.
Second, Amy.
And Amy, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's carried.
The next item, I'll take over here for
Yep.
Ryan. We have a farm lease with Dale Halings for what was the former McFettridge Farm, for roughly 70.1 acres at $150 per acre. I will have a discussion with Dale prior to having this signed that there might be some minor land disruption, just to get the site ready for any future developments that we're doing on it, but it'll be minor in nature, and we'll communicate with him prior to any of that happening.
I move that we approve this with the caveat that our lease agreement include something about the minor disruption.
Second, Cutler.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you.
All right, I gotta go.
Now you.
Thank you.
You guys are making me late.
All right, thank you, Amy.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Give the other members of your meeting our apologies. Tell them you just couldn't get the word moving.
Just from a little person back here in the public and doing real estate, that $850 a year lease, I feel is a reasonable amount. It's,
150.
what is it?
50 per acre.
150.
Per acre.
150. Okay.
150 an acre.
Doreen, where am I going?
Right here? Next office past that.
And that's reasonable.
Yep.
It's,
Okay.
Yeah. 850 was outrageous.
I was like, dang it, wait a minute, we're going back.
Anyway, I thought
Thanks
you
for
said
the,
it was like-
everybody's flexibility here, jumping around the agenda to accommodate having a quorum and being able to move on our action items here. So we're gonna go back up to item number 5, which is the finance report, and then
Gotta
we'll
go back
carry
to
on.
executive.
We'll do, I think we can do that at the end.
Okay, all right.
We'll- So the finance report from
Yep.
Doreen.
Check number 6162 to 6187 and E118 to E121 totaling $60,882.39. And I have check number 56 from the Ag Fund for $150,000 for the Indian Pines Farm loan.
Okay. Thank you. Is that it? Is that everything?
I think that's all. I don't think I had anything else. I thought they had any.
Okay. Then it asks for a motion to accept the finance report and approve paying those specific checks.
So moved, Cutler.
Second, Rogers.
Thanks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. And yes, I did just raise my hand for some reason to vote. Yeah, that's
I wasn't
good.
gonna say anything. I thought you were
Made eye
waving.
contact right when I did it. Yeah, it was weird.
Like,
So we'll move on to the status reports, management reports from you guys. Doreen, do you have
no
anything to
updates.
share?
Any questions?
I'll just give a quick update on the wing walk. Some pretty cool numbers, data that we found from it. Liberty won again as the second year in a row. Every restaurant that participated, and there were 2 new ones, gained votes. So it was a much tighter race this year. Everybody improved their wings. In the first 45 minutes of registration, so the event was 12 to 4. Within the first 45 minutes, we had everybody but 35 people registered.
Wow.
Everyone showed up early, and it was despite the weather from the night before. The chamber was taking a ton of calls, asking if it was still going on, but everyone still showed up. I think there was only 20 people out of the 500 tickets sold that didn't show up the day of.
That's remarkable.
And the thing that I found astonishing again is that 423 people cast their vote for the wings. So everyone that's there is still voting. So it's almost
423 out of 480?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, almost
Yeah.
90%
Yeah.
that actually cast their vote. So people love it. It was a great event. People are still raving about it, and we're doing a little award ceremony for the Liberty tonight, actually at 6 o'clock, where media will be there taking pictures, present the trophy,
Awesome.
give them their shout out again. So it's a pretty cool event. The work shadowing program that I'm working on at the academy is in full fact-finding interview mode right now. There was about over 100 businesses that are being interviewed by a collection of local individuals between the school, outside consultants, myself, to find out what the best practice is, how to shape the program going forward. You're next on my list to call. So once we got all the interviews in, the data will be collected along with interviews that were done with parents, faculty, and all that will be compiled to start really shaping the program. So more updates on that to come.
And add me to the businesses, if you would.
I believe you were,
Okay,
so I will find out who was supposed to be contacting you.
okay, and no one has.
Okay. Thank you.
Steve, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'll just, I guess actually the only 2 quick things I'll on top of what Mike just said, the Chamber's also hosting their growth series that they asked for our help to get the word out to the larger employers anyways about onboarding is the next one, onboarding new employees, which is going to be April 27th from 2 to 4 at the mansion on Cupid Lake. We'll forward that out to our email list as well, but I think that's Mary Ann, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, it'd be vitally important or becoming increasingly important anyways to businesses, making sure they get the employees in quickly and efficiently and understanding their steps, because it's I think it's something maybe that in the past companies maybe haven't fully focused on, and now there's enough turnover and challenge to getting employees that getting them ingrained quickly is becoming increasingly important. I don't think, I'm trying to forget, something we are under some additional pushing again to have some pretty wild requirements on IDAs, including ABO, direct oversight and management of all IDAs, which would be
Incredibly efficient.
yeah, it'd be the death nail, and then we're considered a municipality, so there's really nothing stopping them from then coming into all the local municipalities if this gets approved and saying, no, the government should have direct management and oversight of all local municipalities. So it's taking home rule and just going insane with it. It's getting rid of it. So, and you continue to see some of that coming out of Albany anyway. So there will be I'm sure a response from many of us on this. It just came out as we were sitting here. I got the email. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Why
So-
would that be? Why would that be? Because it seems like a move like that is to to combat something or to
Yeah, Orange
control
County had
something
some-
that's not right.
Orange County Economic Development, their IDA, had some illegal activities going on, and instead of addressing it locally, the response to that has been, well, then all IDAs must be doing illegal activities. And so therefore, they all need
Maybe some-
our state assistance, because clearly the state is unbelievably efficient in everything they do.
Steve, if I may, this is Russ, and I apologize for the feedback earlier. I just had a conflict at 8:30. Yeah, Orange County, who I have worked with in the past, they had some activities that were less than above board, if you will, that I was not aware of. And there's been a major change, and with that coupled with the fact that Senator Skoufis, who that's his jurisdiction, frankly does not like IDAs, it's kind of the perfect storm. So this oversight committee, as Steve noted, is problematic. We're cautiously optimistic that it won't happen.
Yeah, it's just, and I agree, Russ, and thank you for that. It's just, again, to me, it's the frustration boiling over, like, good grief. You know, why are we constantly having to fight against our own state reps on growth, economic growth, when, you know, every PR news headline you're seeing, especially right now, is talking about population loss and
Yeah.
decline and workforce challenges, and instead of backing your local economic development groups, you got people like Skoufis thinking that he knows better than everybody else. So
His last name
And
is
Steve, further
Skoufis?
to your point, and just to be frank, you know, we've had a number of sit-downs with, and some of your colleagues have had sit-downs with Skoufis and his office, and it just falls on deaf ears.
yeah, he doesn't care.
You know?
So, clearly, I take slightly different approaches than some of my colleagues who tend to call out those individuals.
But we're not gonna do that today, so that's good.
So, anyways, that's,
So Steve, should we consider, I don't know how, mature this approach is with this particular state representative, but would it make sense for us to partner up with our representatives and create a case study that says this is how we do things correctly, and find other IDAs that have those same relationships?
so,
Or you've already
yes,
done
they started doing that last year, actually. New York State EDC contracted with Camoin Associates and did a pretty deep dive, actually, on pilots and the benefits and job growth and all that sort of thing from each of the IDAs throughout the state, and came out with a report, and they're doing it again. So they're gonna continue to update that and do it. They just sent the survey out, I think it was last week, that we all have to respond to, and then it will be publicized in greater detail to
Can we
tell the
s-
bigger story.
Can we see the link from the last one?
We should be able to, yeah, I'll get that.
If you have
Yeah.
it, that would be great, thanks. Sorry.
No, that's good.
No, and it's something we have to start doing anyways, right? Because it's similar to, I think what you're seeing happen with Greenwich and their challengers, that it's sort of this punch counter punch instead of telling a bigger general story of just sort of a constant drip of positive news of
Right.
that sort of thing. So yes, I would.
Thanks.
Okay, anything else on the management reports, Steve?
No, I think that's good.
All right, then we'll move on to action items again, and we've already taken care of item 1, which is the audit presentation, so we'll move on to item 2, which is the CD discussion.
Oh.
You can give the information, but we can't vote.
Well, can't I forgetting, if we have a quorum, we have, hey, Russ,
I think we can.
we, are you there? Yeah, Russ,
I'm
if,
here, sorry.
okay, if we have a quorum in person, but need to have an abstention, can Kim, who's on Zoom, does her vote then, can her vote count because there is a quorum or not?
Who needs to abstain and for what reason?
I do, Ryan does, because one of the next discussion is a CD rate at different banks, so one of which is my employer.
It's not perfect, Steve, but if it can wait a month, that would be my recommendation. And Ryan, I certainly understand your reasons for abstention. I don't think you need to, but I understand the optics of it. So my recommendation would be if it can wait a month, that's great. If not, then we'll proceed and see what happens.
If
I know
it
it's gonna
can't
challenge
wait,
it
I
anyway.
can, sorry to interrupt, if it can't wait, I can get in the car, I can
No.
feel better, I just shouldn't linger around with all my terms.
No, that's, hey, Doreen's right, who knows, rates could go up again and,
Amy's in the building, but she probably.
yeah. We'll table it for now, and then if Amy gets done with her call and we can grab her, then we can address it, and if not, we'll table it for the time being.
Russ, so the vote would have to be in public session. Are there any other options to have a poll vote or an email vote or anything like that?
Yeah, but it's kind of Ryan, it's kind of a weird situation that the state has put us in. I've recommended to boards that I would prefer to have, given the lack of clarity, actual physical presence of a quorum versus virtually. But if this is something that needs to be done, Steve Griffin,
Yeah.
Today, do it, and we'll figure it out.
We can, it's, on this one, it's not that big of a deal, so we'll table it, that's fine. Maybe rates will go up again in those 30 days, but,
Doofus will be after you.
yes, well, no, I think we're good, never mind.
Sorry, guys.
No, that's all right.
Feel better, Kim.
Wait a minute, I hear Amy.
Oh, no, I thought it was too, but
Say
it's
I could
someone else.
Oh.
vote on a resolution for management to make the decision. Just trying to think of ways to, where, I can't vote on where it goes, but.
Well, we can vote to authorize Steve
Steve, yeah.
to decide.
That. So Russ, what we're discussing, Russ, is we have a CD that's renewed, that we need to renew. They're talking about now, could they just give myself the approval to sort of make that decision on where to put the money for the next, till the next board meeting, for the next 30 days?
Yes, that's not a problem, and because, Steve and the board, statutorily, you're limited as to where you can invest it. So I don't think Steve's gonna go buy Bitcoin with the money that needs to be reinvested.
Oh, I don't know.
And you can certainly, for lack of a better way of putting it, delegate that to staff to figure out where the best rate is within the parameters of the law. And Steve, you and I can talk about that.
Okay.
That sounds
Is that
good.
that way?
Yeah.
That's something I would feel comfortable voting on,
Okay.
giving Steve the authorization or the management the authorization, but then I think that removes the conflict for me enough
Yeah.
to feel
You could-
comfortable to vote.
Very
You
creative.
can always have it, well, I guess you really can't go back, so you can't really have it contingent on anything, so.
Okay.
So move to authorize Steve to figure out.
Put it in a CD
Best
where he
Yeah.
deems best.
All we can do with it.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, carried. All right, so the next item on the agenda is a lease for Finger Lakes Power Systems.
Yep, that was in the status report. They'd like to continue renting the shed out back, $170 a month plus a $30 utility charge. They did ask for one parking space for a trailer, which we would charge $35, and if they're there for more than one space, we reserve the right to terminate the lease.
Parking challenges here.
Parking challenges
And
here.
people have tended to grow how much space they actually need.
Which we need to talk to our tenant out back, because they have
So-
3 buses parked over by the fence and they can't
So we
park
have,
any there.
yeah, so that's what that is for. And it's this would just be, this is just a 1-year lease. He asked for an option to renew for another year. We'll just make it a 1-year lease that we can then go back and talk to him for on the second year.
Sure.
Do you have to vote on it?
We do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ask for a motion to approve the 1-year lease.
Motion to approve.
Ms. Janice?
Second.
Second, Mary Ann, the side of the table.
Rogers.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, carried. So I think that concludes the action items and the agenda for this. Is there anything else? No,
Not
that's
for
not true.
public. Yeah, we
Yeah,
go
so we were
back
through
in
the
there.
action items, but we are gonna ask for an executive session to discuss the
Potential sale
potential
of
sale of property. So I'd ask for that motion.
Are there gonna be any actions coming out of executive session?
There won't be any actions on the other side, I don't think.
So,
Not that-
Just
So
to
we
let Jim know.
adjourn.
Bid you farewell.
Thank you.
Adjourn.
Okay,
But could I have a
so-
motion
yeah.
to
So
enter
moved.
executive?
Mary
Thank you,
Ann.
Mary Ann. In a second?
Second.
Tim, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thanks, Jim.
Carries.
Lot
Interesting.
Bye, everyone.
It's all very
Thanks,
interesting.
Amy.
Bye.
Hey, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You need these today?
Yes, please.
You-
That's right, her, sorry. These, I think you just want back as soon as.
Yes, you can take it with you and bring them back.
Yeah,
Next one.
yeah. I'm
And
gonna do
it's
that.
all for Mary Ann.
We're live
That
again, Ryan.
paper is
All
for
right.
Wayne Bank, and you can just fill it out and take it to the bank, because they've got some other stuff to sign, and Community Bank you'll have to stop at.
As for a motion to exit executive session, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Tim. Seconded.
Oh, second.
Mary Ann, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that concludes our agenda for today. Our next meeting is on April 19th, third Wednesday of April. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thanks, Tim.
Second.
Mary Ann, we are adjourned. Thank you.